So, as it turns out, I had a different video planned, and I had already done my second mock draft. But instead of doing a second mock draft, a third mock draft, I wanted to redo the second one. And the reason why I wanted to redo the second one is because I wanted the second one to be different than the first one outside of just the players that I draft. Because things have changed since free agency, and because things have changed since free agency, it makes it more interesting how the draft's going to work out. Like for the Chargers, my guess was Brock Bowers in my first draft, but this time it's different because of the direction that they're going after releasing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, or getting rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. It's a little different than what my first guess was. And I know I've talked about trades but never did any, so that is also something that I wanted to do this time too. But the fact of the matter is, I think that everything is going to remain the same when it comes to at least the first two picks. As Caleb Williams will go to the Chicago Bears, and I know I drafted Drake May to the Washington Commanders in our first mock draft, but I think I'm actually going to draft Jaden Daniels because of the conversations that I've heard that Drake May's draft stock has dropped over the last couple of months or last couple of weeks since the combine, and Jaden Daniels has gone up. So I think there's a possibility that Jaden Daniels could go second and Drake May could drop to 3 or 4. I don't think he's going to drop out of the top 5, but I think that there's a possibility that he could drop past Washington and Jaden Daniels could go to Washington instead. Because also, based on what I saw from the interview with Jaden Daniels during his interview with the Patriots, I believe it was the Patriots, or during Pro Day, whatever you want to call it, it seems like he's ready to go to a team to prove himself. And I think, not that Drake May's not out to prove himself, but I think Jaden Daniels is showing that he's hungry to prove himself, and I don't think that there's a better opportunity for him to prove himself in than Washington. But I think also that this is a trade that is going to take place, that the Minnesota Vikings will trade 3 first-round picks to the New England Patriots. They may get a second-round pick back. They may get a pick back, but I do think I would be dumbfounded. I would be one of the people that would be dumbfounded looking at the draft and not seeing the Minnesota Vikings move up to number 3 to draft Drake May at number 3 to make sure that they can get their quarterback of the future and trade with the Patriots, because with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and TJ Hawkinson, the Minnesota Vikings have the setup now. They are set up now to win now. And even if Drake May sits under the learning tree and learns from Sam Darnold and has Sam Darnold as his backup, or even sits and learns from Sam Darnold for a year, whatever the case might be, it would benefit Minnesota in the long run to pick their quarterback of the future and get one that they want, not what is left over, because they are in win now. With the best wide receiver in the NFL right now under contract for the time being, you have to do what you can to win now. Even if it means mortgaging yourself down the road, it means you are winning now. And in my opinion, the Patriots are not in the position to pick the quarterback of the future because they don't have the setup for the quarterback of the future. They have the setup for the quarterback of the future next year, but not this year. So I would be surprised if anybody in the top 5 doesn't, trades out. I would be surprised if it's not the New England Patriots. Arizona Cardinals are going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. And the fact of the matter is, I think that the Los Angeles Chargers will pick Malik Neighbors because they need to start rebuilding their wide receiving core, and the only way to do that is to take the best wide receiver in the draft that is there. And Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers is ideally what needs to happen. Now I've heard rumors that Brian Daboll wants to stick with Daniel Jones, but the Giants general manager wants a new quarterback. For that reason, I could see the Giants trading back. I could see the Giants trading back out of the 6th spot to a team that might be more desperate. Whether it's a team like the Jets that want to make sure they can get somebody for the O line, or whatever the case is. I just don't know that. I just don't know that the Giants need to be at number 6 right now. But I'm going to stick with what I think would be best for the Giants. I'm going to stick with what I think as a general manager, the general manager should be able to put his foot down and say, this is what we're doing because I'm your GM and I know what is best for the team. The reason why I think the Giants should slide back is if they want to pick a quarterback, it would be better to slide back because you might not be in the position to pick a quarterback at number 6. The one question that the general manager needs to ask is, do you have the proper weapons for a new quarterback? Or should you spend and maybe should you spend a 3rd round pick and get maybe Spencer Rattler or Jordan Travis or Joe Milton instead of reaching on J.J. McCarthy and not putting J.J. McCarthy in a position where J.J. could succeed? Yes, to be fair, you could pick J.J. McCarthy in round 1 and then pick, and then pick Keon Coleman or Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy or Lade McKinney or Troy Franklin, whoever's left in round 2. But I think it would be better for the GM to listen to Brian Daboll, get some tools for a quarterback to use, like Rome Odunze, and go with that for the team. I think that would be best for the Giants to go and start getting tools for a new quarterback to use and maybe follow the Patriots and pick a quarterback next year or pick a project quarterback, maybe Michael Penix Jr. in this year's draft that could project to be a starter, but have him sit under the learning tree for a year and learn from guys like Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito or whomever might be slotting in as a quarterback for the Giants in 2024. I don't think a big, massive draft pick is necessary for the Giants in this position, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that there's any other pick for the Tennessee Titans in this position at number 7, than Joe Alt because they need to improve the offensive line. The amount of sacks that Will Levis took last year, they need to improve the offensive line. Simple as that. Simple as that. I think that looking at the Atlanta Falcons, their biggest need is edge rusher or cornerback, but I think that both positions are deep in this draft, or deep enough in this draft, that they can't go wrong either way. They can't go wrong either way, and I think that the best position for the Atlanta Falcons would be to get somebody that can go for the quarterback and draft Crimson Tide edge rusher Dallas Turner. With Caleb Williams heading in to with Caleb Williams heading into his new place as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, I think that Jackson Powers Johnson helping the offensive line is not just an issue for the Bears, but it's also an issue for the New York Jets. And that's why Olimwa Fashanu is off to the New York Jets. And now, with what we have here and the New England Patriots, I'm going to say the same thing with the Giants, that if the Patriots want to draft a project quarterback who could sit under Jacoby Brissett for a year and learn, that's not a bad idea. Because maybe you'll strike big and get lucky with someone. Maybe you'll strike big and get lucky with somebody as a project quarterback, again, like Spencer Rattler or Joe Milton or Michael Penix Jr., who could fall out of the first round or go into the second round. You could draft Michael Penix Jr. if he's still here in the second round. Or Joe Milton, who had a great combine. Jordan Travis could go, Michael Pratt, Spencer Rattler. The list goes on and on and on, but I think that either a cornerback, I think that they need to up their receiving core, but also they need to work on their offensive line. I know cornerback is a position that they could benefit from. But I think that these three positions, offense is more of a desperate. They more are in a desperate position offensively than they are defensively. And I think that if Brock Bowers drops to the New England Patriots, it would be wrong for the Patriots to not pick a talent like Brock Bowers if Brock drops and this trade happens. The reason why I wouldn't pick J.J. McCarthy as the New York Giants and I would pick him as the Denver Broncos is because it's like I said, I feel like you don't get your franchise quarterback and then get other stuff. You get other stuff and then build backwards. You get a center, you get wide receivers, you get a tight end, you get people that he could work with and that could protect him. Because if you put him in a position where you don't have that and you expect him to succeed, Mac Jones with the Patriots, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. We're going to go back here, and Terrion Arnold is going to be off to the Oakland Raiders as the first cornerback coming off the board. The New Orleans Saints is also going to go defense. We are also going to go defense with the New Orleans Saints. As honestly, I think there's a chance that they may trade Marshawn Lattimore, and that there's also a possibility that getting a cornerback with that possibility could be something that would benefit them. But I don't think they need to improve distance with that. I think someone like Laiatu Latu, knowing that, I think getting a cornerback for the Saints would be the best way to go. I don't know that Queion Mitchell is the right person and not Nate Wiggins, but I was very close to drafting Laiatu Latu as opposed to him. I know that the Colts could benefit from that, but also a wide receiver. But I also think that if Laiatu Latu is dropping to the Colts, then Laiatu Latu is somebody that the Colts should consider filling the need of edge rusher. Seattle Seahawks, the Seahawks seem to be another one of the teams that could benefit from helping their offensive line. And I think that that is exactly what they will do, picking from the deep offensive tackle draft that there is, and Talisa Fuaga will go to the Seattle Seahawks. With the losses that the Jacksonville Jaguars have had in this draft, I think they will either go wide receiver or cornerback. Actually, I'm remembering maybe a defensive tackle. I think it's very up in the air. I think the Jaguars are one of the teams that are very up in the air because I think after you get past the 15th pick, it gets very up in the air of what a team should pick or what a team could pick. Like it's very easy. Um, the top 5 picks in my opinion are very easy. In my opinion, the top 5 picks or even the top 7 picks are very easy and very clear. Just like the Jets, it's very easy and very clear what they're going to pick. The Broncos, it's very easy. The Raiders have gone on record that they want to pick a cornerback. It's very easy, but as we get lower in the draft, it gets a little difficult with the better teams. What do they actually need? The Jaguars are in a tough spot because Trevor Lawrence is nearing the end of his rookie contract, much like Tua Tagovailoa is nearing the end of his rookie contract. And I think that it's 50-50. I don't think you can go wrong picking Johnny Newton, Byron Murphy, or Nate Wiggins. But I think I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think Johnny Newton will head off. Even though, I will say this, even though I think, and this is my honest opinion, I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are one of the teams, I think the San Francisco 49ers are one of the other teams that should contemplate and consider a wideout at some point in the draft. And with the depth in the wideout draft this year, it is a good year to pick a wideout because even in the second round, one of the top wideouts will probably still be there. Or even if you want to trade up or, trade around or whatever the case is to get a wideout, I think that San Francisco has more pressing issues than a wideout. But with the fact that they may lose Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco, and that Ja'Marr Chase and why can't I remember the other guy? Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins are not going to stay together forever. It's not as pressing issue as it is in Buffalo, but it's something that these two teams need to address at some point in the not too distant future. But I think that Iowa defensive tackle Byron Murphy II will go off to Cincinnati. And though the cornerback might be listed first, I think filling the void or trying to fill the void on defense left by Aaron Donald should be, I know it's impossible to fill the void and fill the spot, but filling the position and getting somebody to fill that spot is something that they need to focus on. And having somebody like Jared Verse drop to them at 19, don't think too hard about it. Don't think too hard about it. The Steelers are in an interesting position with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They got a completely refurbished quarterback room. I know that there's some people that think that the Steelers could take a wideout at this position. But I think that protecting, based on the very little that I know about Russell Wilson, the more time that Russell has to throw, same with Justin Fields, that the more space Justin Fields has, the better. So getting somebody to protect them would not be the worst idea. And I think that Troy Fatanu out of Washington is ideally the best way to go. With the losses that the Miami Dolphins have had this offseason, I think that there's two options: helping with the offensive line, which I think protecting Tua should be the main thing, the main focus for the Miami Dolphins. But also, it should not be ruled out with defensive tackle or cornerback. I mean, there's options. There are options. But I think the more pressing issue is here on the offensive line. And I think Graham Barton is someone that could be, I think either offensive tackle or offensive guard will be where Miami goes with this pick. Honestly, I'm not really sure what Philadelphia is going to do here. I'm honestly not really sure what Philadelphia is going to do here. And honestly, based on what I know, Cooper DeJean could slot in as a safety or a cornerback, and which means it gives Philadelphia the opportunity to have options with Cooper DeJean if they want him to play safety or cornerback, and options from, I might be speaking from a baseball perspective, but options are always better than nothing. And now with the Patriots, with the fact that we picked Brock Bowers at number 11, I think going with something. I mean, honestly, I was that close to picking Kool-Aid McKinstry, but I think protecting the offensive line and helping the offensive line should actually be something that is put out and the focus. So J.C. Latham out of Alabama will go at the number 23rd pick to the Patriots. Honestly, with the position that the Cowboys are in, honestly, I don't know what they're going to do. It's sort of like the Eagles. It's sort of like the Eagles and the Dolphins. I'm not really sure, and I think it gets tougher to know who these guys are going to pick as the draft goes later on. Um, with that being said, I think we look around and honestly, with the offensive line with the offense potentially changing within the next year or so, as it seems like they might not be keeping Dak Prescott long term, which I don't blame them, because if you can't win with them, you got to start over. So I think going on the defensive side would probably be the better way to go. Honestly, with Green Bay, protecting Jordan Love might not be the worst idea. But at the same time, if it's not a pressing need, I could also see Cooper DeJean going here to Green Bay. If it's not a pressing need, and you could address it later in the draft, which I genuinely believe that they could probably get somebody for the offensive line later in the draft, I think going with Edgerrin Cooper would not be the worst trade for, I mean, would not be the worst draft pick for the boys here in Green Bay. Honestly, before I made the pick, Green Bay, I could see Green Bay, trading back with Buffalo or San Francisco, because I could see San Francisco or Buffalo wanting to make sure that they could get a certain pick and trading up to get that certain pick. Like, I'm not 100% sure that this pick is going to go out. Honestly, I'm not sure that this would happen. But for argument's sake of the mock draft, we're going to say it is that San Francisco is going to trade up to the 26th pick in the NFL draft. San Francisco is going to trade up to Tampa Bay's spot. They'll throw him a 4th round pick in next year's draft. And I own every team. How could they not be? How could it keep getting rejected? Whatever. Point is, either way, Tampa Bay was going to draft Chop Robinson, edge rusher out of Penn State. They have a need on defense. They're going to fill it. I think that with how the offense went last year, actually, I didn't even know you could do this. If they give you a breakdown, with how the offense went last year and how good everything was last year, run the offense back, help the defense a little bit. Help the defense a little bit. I know I could probably go defense here, and I think we're going to go offense, though. Honestly, I think I'm going to try and trade back. I think I'm going to try and do the trade again with the San Francisco 49ers. Why does the trade keep getting rejected? I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. But honestly, I think that Tyler Guyton, because you can also make him a guard, because he is not very experienced at offensive tackle, but protecting Kyler Murray. If you can't tell, I'm big in protecting the quarterback, especially one that likes to run, because if you got people that can block allow Kyler to get space, it is something that would be beneficial for Kyler Murray. So getting somebody on the offensive line would be beneficial for the Cardinals. And Brian Thomas Jr. will go to the Buffalo Bills. Honestly, with the need, Kool-Aid McKinstry is off to the Detroit Lions. And I'm gonna say, because the Ravens seem to have good luck drafting receivers, that they will probably draft a receiver as well, with Adonai Mitchell heading to Baltimore. Now, initially the plan with San Francisco here was to draft Kool-Aid McKinstry. But I felt like Kool-Aid McKinstry might have fit better in Detroit. Well, it fit a need in Detroit and they drafted first. But I still think cornerback might be the most pressing issue in San Francisco, next to maybe offensive tackle, with Amarius Mims could be somebody that they could draft. But Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia is headed off to San Francisco. And I mean, part of me wants to draft a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs because of how tough things were last year. And also how deep the draft is. But this also gives back to me why I think that, basically teams like, wide receiver teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, the Steelers, there was another team, the Steelers. Heck, I would even say the Rams, but the Rams could also draft a quarterback. I'm actually thinking about doing a full-on draft. By that I mean everything. Like not everything. By that I mean, by that I mean, what's it called? By that I mean, by that I mean multiple rounds. That's what I mean. But I think that this is I think this is something that worked out. I know that my lack of knowledge on football is pretty obvious. It might be pretty obvious, to be fair. It might be pretty obvious to be fair, but I think that it worked out quite well. I think it worked out quite well. And this was the initial draft that I did. Pretty similar, but also a little different. Um, and then this was the other half. This was the other half. Again, pretty similar, but a little different. As Cooper DeJean went to Chicago instead of Jackson Powers Johnson, Bo Nix went to Denver instead of JJ McCarthy, because in this initial draft, JJ McCarthy went to Denver instead of Bo Nix, and Bo Nix didn't even get drafted in the first round. But wideout still went to Buffalo, cornerback still went to Detroit, wideout still went to Baltimore, and ironically enough, Amarius Mims went to Kansas City in this draft as opposed to San Francisco, and a cornerback, and Amarius Mims went to Kansas City, yes, because this was also before Hollywood Brown signed with that team, Kansas City. The 2 points I want to make are with this outlook. The 2 points I want to make is I think that there's going to be more trades in the first round than just with New England and Minnesota. I also think that Los Angeles, New York, and New England will also draft a quarterback in the draft. I think the Rams should look at the possibility of drafting a project quarterback. Again, Michael Penix Jr., Joe Milton, you know, uh, Spencer Rattler. The list goes on and on and on of people that you could draft. Have him sit and learn under Matt Stafford for a year or two before Matt Stafford retires. You could have a quarterback learn under Jacoby Brissett in New England. You could have somebody learn under whoever's going to man the quarterback room in New York for a year and be a project quarterback. But the fact of the matter is, New York and New England specifically have way too many needs to draft a quarterback this year and not address those needs first. And that's the reason why I think New England will slide back out of the third spot and look to address those needs, because Minnesota should be in the win now mode and wanting to make sure they get the quarterback of the future, reset that clock, and have somebody that can man the center for Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson. Malik Neighbors resetting the receiving core or resetting the receiving room in Los Angeles is a good start. I was very confident with certain draft picks, but it's like I said, after a certain point, I became a little bit less confident and a little bit more iffy, and maybe my lack of knowledge showed a little bit more with certain other positions or certain other teams and certain other draft picks than it did with early in the draft, because it is pretty obvious and pretty easy, in my opinion, to pick certain players to go to certain teams in the top 10. With that being said, though, that is it for me, and I will see you in the next one.